The morning started like any other Tuesday at Jefferson Elementary. Sarah Martinez adjusted her teaching badge and smiled at the familiar chaos of third graders rushing into her classroom. 28 bright faces looked up at her, some still rubbing sleep from their eyes, others bouncing with excitement about the day ahead. "Good morning, class," Sarah said, her voice warm and steady. "Today we're going to learn about the solar system. Who can tell me which planet is closest to the sun?" A dozen hands shot up. Little Emma Chun waved hers frantically. "Mercury. Mercury is the closest." "That's right, Emma. And Mercury is very hot because the ground shook. Not the gentle rumble of a passing truck, but a violent tremor that knocked pencils from desks and sent the classroom globe spinning." Sarah's teacher instincts kicked in immediately. "Everyone under your desks, now," she commanded, her voice cutting through the confused murmurs. "Just like we practiced in our earthquake drills." The children scrambled beneath their desks as another tremor hit, stronger this time. Books tumbled from shelves, and the overhead lights flickered ominously. But this wasn't an earthquake. Through the classroom windows, Sarah could see something that made her blood freeze. Ships. Massive, dark ships hanging in the sky like storm clouds, their surfaces gleaming with an otherworldly metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, with sweeping curves and spires that defied human engineering. "Mrs. Martinez," whispered Tommy Rodriguez, his voice small and scared. "What are those things?" Before Sarah could answer, the ships began to descend. As they moved closer to the ground, a strange humming filled the air, growing louder and more intense. The windows began to vibrate, then crack, spider webbing outward from the frames. Sarah's mind raced. Whatever was happening, her first priority was clear: protect her students. She'd been teaching for 8 years, and she'd always known that sometimes being a teacher meant being more than an educator. Sometimes it meant being a shield. "Listen to me carefully," she said, moving to the center of the classroom where all the children could see her. Her voice was calm despite the chaos erupting outside. "We're going to play a game. It's called Statue. You're going to stay exactly where you are, as quiet as mice, until I say it's safe to move." The humming grew louder, and now Sarah could see smaller craft detaching from the main ships. These moved with purpose, heading toward populated areas, toward schools, toward places where the most vulnerable people gathered. A new sound joined the humming, a high-pitched whine that seemed to drill into her skull. Some of the children began to cry, pressing their hands to their ears. Sarah felt it too, a pressure building behind her eyes, but she forced herself to stay focused. "It's okay," she said, kneeling so she was at eye level with her students. "Cover your ears and close your eyes. Remember, you're statues. The very best statues in the whole world." Through the cracked windows, she could see people running in the streets. Adults screaming, cars crashing as drivers lost control. The smaller alien craft were firing something, not bullets or bombs, but beams of pale blue light that made people simply stop, collapse, fall to the ground motionless. Sarah's classroom was on the 3rd floor, but she could see one of the craft approaching their building. It moved with the fluid grace of a predator, its weapons already charging with that same blue light. She made a decision that would change everything. Moving quickly but calmly, Sarah positioned herself between the windows and her students. She spread her arms wide, making herself as large a target as possible. If those weapons were coming for her classroom, they would have to go through her first. "Mrs. Martinez?" Emma's voice was muffled from beneath her desk. "Are you a statue too?" "Yes, sweetheart," Sarah replied, her eyes never leaving the approaching craft. "I'm the biggest, strongest statue of all." The craft stopped outside the classroom windows, hovering just beyond the glass. Sarah could see into its cockpit now. If it was a cockpit, there was a figure inside, tall and graceful, with elongated limbs and skin that seemed to shimmer between blue and silver. Its eyes, if they were eyes, were large and dark, like pools of starlight. For a moment, being and humans stared at each other across the impossible gulf of space and species. Sarah saw something flicker across the alien's features. Curiosity, perhaps, or recognition. Then, the weapons fired. The blue light hit Sarah with the force of a freight train. Every nerve in her body screamed as energy coursed through her. But she didn't move. She couldn't move. But, more importantly, she wouldn't move. Behind her, she could hear her students whimpering. But they were still there. Still breathing. Still safe. The light intensified, and Sarah felt her consciousness begin to slip away. Her last coherent thought was a fierce, protective surge of love for the 28 children cowering behind her. Whatever happened to her, she had done her job. She had kept them safe. But, as darkness claimed her, something extraordinary happened. Instead of simply falling unconscious like the other humans the aliens had encountered, Sarah's mind blazed with defiance. Her protective instinct, her absolute refusal to let harm come to her students, created something the alien weapons weren't designed to handle. A feedback loop. A resonance. The blue light that was meant to subdue her instead interacted with her fierce determination in ways that baffled the alien technology. Her consciousness didn't simply shut down, it expanded. It reached out, somehow, touching something vast and incomprehensible. The alien pilot recoiled as his instruments went wild. Energy readings spiked beyond anything in their databases. The human female wasn't just resisting their neural pacification beam. She was somehow redirecting it, turning it into something else entirely. Sarah's body collapsed to the floor, but her mind was elsewhere. Flying through space, touching the edges of the alien fleet's communication network, understanding things that no human had ever understood before. She saw their plans, their reasons for coming to Earth, their methods and weaknesses. More importantly, she saw how to stop them. The knowledge burned itself into her consciousness like a brand. Technical specifications for their weapons, the frequency resonances of their shielding, the location of their command ships, the biological vulnerabilities of their species, it all flooded into her mind in the space between one heartbeat and the next. Then, everything went dark. When the emergency responders found Jefferson Elementary 3 hours later, they discovered something that would puzzle scientists for years to come. 28 third graders, completely unharmed, huddled together in classroom 3B. And their teacher, Sarah Martinez, unconscious on the floor in front of the shattered windows, her body positioned protectively between the children and whatever had attacked the school. The children all told the same story. Mrs. Martinez had made herself into a statue to protect them. She had stood between them and the scary lights, and she hadn't moved even when the lights hit her. What the children couldn't know, what no one could know yet, was that Sarah Martinez had done more than protect her class. In that moment of absolute sacrifice, she had somehow stolen the aliens' most precious secret, the complete technical database of their entire invasion force. The information was locked away in her unconscious mind, waiting. The aliens knew something had gone wrong, but they didn't know what. Their invasion proceeded, but with less certainty now. Something had touched their network, learned their secrets, and they couldn't find any trace of what or who had done it. As Sarah lay in her hospital bed, machines monitoring her vital signs, military officials, and scientists gathered around her chart. She was stable but unresponsive, lost somewhere in the depths of her own mind. The doctors called it a coma brought on by trauma and exposure to unknown energy. They had no idea they were looking at Earth's greatest hope. Outside the hospital windows, the alien ships continued their methodical conquest of the planet. Governments fell, militaries crumbled, and humanity seemed doomed to subjugation. But, in a small hospital room in suburban California, a third-grade teacher's mind held the keys to victory. Sarah's dreams were filled with star charts and weapon schematics, with the face of the alien pilot who had hesitated before firing, with the sound of her students' voices calling her name. Somewhere in the space between sleeping and waking, between human and something more, she began to plan. The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated what a teacher would do to protect her students. And, in that underestimation, they had given humanity exactly what it needed to fight back. But, first, Sarah had to wake up. And, when she did, she would have some very important calls to make. The invasion of Earth was about to encounter its first real resistance. And it would come from the most unlikely source imaginable. A third-grade teacher from Jefferson Elementary, who had learned the hard way that sometimes the best defense is an absolute refusal to surrender. The war for Earth was just beginning, and humanity's secret weapon was lying in a hospital bed, dreaming of star maps and the faces of 28 children who were counting on her to wake up and save the world. Time would tell if she was strong enough to carry that burden. But if her actions in the classroom were any indication, the aliens had vastly underestimated the power of human determination, especially the determination of a teacher protecting her students. Sarah's eyes opened 3 weeks after the invasion began. The first thing she saw was Dr. Elena Vasquez, the neurologist who had been monitoring her case since the attack on Jefferson Elementary. The second thing she noticed was the weight of knowledge pressing against her skull like a physical presence. "Mrs. Martinez, can you hear me?" Dr. Vasquez leaned forward, excitement clear in her voice. "You've been unconscious for 21 days. Sarah tried to speak, but her throat felt like sandpaper. Dr. Vasquez quickly offered her water, and after a few careful sips, Sarah managed to whisper, "My students. Are they safe?" "They're fine," Dr. Vasquez assured her. "All 28 of them. They're with their families in the refugee camps." Refugee camps. The words hit Sarah like a punch to the stomach. The invasion had succeeded, then. Earth had fallen while she lay helpless in a hospital bed. She closed her eyes, and immediately the alien knowledge flooded back. Star charts, weapon specifications, communication protocols. It was all there, burning bright and clear in her memory. "Doctor," Sarah said, struggling to sit up despite her weakness. "I need to speak to someone in charge. Someone with the military or whatever's left of the government." Dr. Vasquez frowned. "Mrs. Martinez, you've been through severe trauma. You should rest." "No." Sarah's voice carried the same authority she'd used in her classroom when chaos threatened to break out. "You don't understand. I have information about them. About the aliens. Information they don't know I have." Over the next hour, Dr. Vasquez listened with growing amazement as Sarah described what had happened to her during the attack. She spoke of the feedback loop, of her consciousness touching the alien network, of the vast database of information now stored in her mind. When she finished, Dr. Vasquez was silent for a long moment. "Mrs. Martinez," the doctor said finally, "what you're describing is impossible. The human brain doesn't work that way." Sarah smiled grimly. 3 weeks ago, alien invasion was impossible too. Yet here we are. Dr. Vasquez made the call. Within 6 hours, Sarah's hospital room was filled with the remnants of Earth's leadership. General Patricia Harrison, one of the few high-ranking military officers to escape the initial assault. Dr. James Wu, former head of NASA's xenobiology program. Maria Santos, a resistance leader who had emerged from the chaos of the invasion. They all looked at Sarah with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "You're telling us," General Harrison said, "that you somehow downloaded their entire military database." "Not downloaded," Sarah corrected. "It's more like, I absorbed it. When their neural weapon hit me, something went wrong. Instead of just knocking me unconscious, it created a connection. I saw everything they know about their own technology." Dr. Wu leaned forward. "Can you prove it?" Sarah closed her eyes and accessed the alien knowledge. It was like opening a file in her mind, except the file was vast and complex beyond human comprehension. She selected a small piece of information, something verifiable. "Their ships use quantum resonance generators for propulsion," she said. "The frequency is 847.3 terahertz, modulated in a pattern that follows Fibonacci sequences. They're vulnerable to gravitational interference at specific harmonic intervals." Dr. Wu's eyes widened. "We've been analyzing the debris from their crashed scout ship for weeks. We could never figure out the propulsion system." "Take me to it," Sarah said. "I can show you exactly how it works." The next day, despite Dr. Vasquez's protests, Sarah was transferred to the underground research facility where the remains of the crashed alien ship were being studied. The moment she saw the twisted metal and crystal components, more knowledge flooded her mind. "This isn't debris," she said, running her fingers along a section of hull that looked completely smooth to everyone else. "It's alive, or at least partially biological. The ship is grown, not built." She pointed to what looked like random scratches on the metal. "These aren't battle damage. They're control interfaces. The ship responds to bioelectric signals from its pilot. Over the following days, Sarah worked with Earth's remaining scientists to decode the alien technology. Her insights led to breakthrough after breakthrough. They learned how the alien weapons worked, how their shields functioned, how their communication systems operated. Most importantly, they learned the aliens' weaknesses. They're silicon-based, Sarah explained to the assembled research team. Their neural systems are incredibly advanced, but also incredibly specialized. They process information in quantum parallel streams, which makes them nearly impossible to surprise or outmaneuver. But that same specialization is their weakness. How so? General Harrison asked. Sarah smiled, and for the first time since waking up, it was a real smile. They can't understand chaos. Their minds are so orderly, so logical, that truly random behavior confuses their tactical computers. And you know what humans are really, really good at? Dr. Wu caught on first. Being unpredictable. Exactly. They've conquered hundreds of worlds by analyzing the logical responses of their enemies and countering them. But humans, we don't always do the logical thing. Sometimes we do something completely insane just because it feels right. General Harrison looked skeptical. You're suggesting we beat them by being crazy? I'm suggesting we beat them by being human, Sarah corrected. Let me show you something. She led them to a tactical display and began sketching out the alien fleet's formation. Her hand moved with impossible precision, drawing ship positions from memory. This is their standard siege formation, she said. They position their command ships here, support vessels here, with fighter screens protecting the flanks. It's perfectly logical, perfectly efficient. Any military strategist would attack the weakest point in their formation, probably here or here. She pointed to apparent gaps in the alien lines. But those aren't weaknesses, Sarah continued. They're traps. The aliens have analyzed every major military engagement in Earth's history. They know how we think tactically. They're prepared for logical attacks. So what do you suggest? General Harrison asked. Sarah's smile turned fierce. We don't attack their weaknesses. We attack their strengths. We hit them where they least expect it, right in the center of their formation, with everything we've got. That's suicide, one of the other officers protested. No, Sarah said. That's chaos. And chaos is the one thing their perfect minds can't predict. Over the next week, Sarah helped design a battle plan that went against every principle of military strategy. Instead of coordinated attacks on weak points, they would launch simultaneous random strikes across the entire alien fleet. Instead of preserving their forces, they would commit everything to a single, massive assault. Instead of following logical tactical doctrine, they would embrace controlled chaos. But the plan required more than just strategy. It needed weapons that could penetrate alien shields, and Sarah had the key to that as well. Their shields work by predicting incoming projectiles and deflecting them, she explained to the weapons development team. But they only deflect what they can predict. If we can make our weapons truly random, random speed, random trajectory, random everything, their shields won't know how to respond. The solution was elegantly simple. Earth's remaining factories began producing weapons with deliberately flawed guidance systems. Missiles that would randomly change course. Energy weapons with fluctuating power outputs. Artillery shells with intentionally unbalanced weights that would tumble unpredictably through the air. To any sane military planner, these weapons would be considered defective. But against an enemy that relied on prediction and logic, they were perfect. As the resistance prepared for their counterattack, word spread about the teacher who had stolen alien secrets. Sarah Martinez became a legend in the refugee camps and underground hideouts where humanity struggled to survive. Stories grew with each telling. How she had faced down an alien ship to protect her students. How she had somehow stolen their entire military database. How she was planning to drive the invaders from Earth. Sarah tried to downplay her role. I'm just a teacher, she told anyone who would listen. I did what any teacher would do. But the people needed hope, and she had become their symbol of resistance. Children drew pictures of her standing between alien ships and human cities, her arms spread wide in protection. Adults whispered her name like a prayer. General Harrison found her one evening in the research center, still poring over alien technical specifications even though she had been working for 18 hours straight. You should rest, the general said. The attack is still 3 days away. Sarah looked up from the holographic display showing alien ship schematics. I keep thinking there's something I'm missing. Some detail that could make the difference between victory and disaster. You've already given us more than we ever dared hope for, Harrison said. Without your knowledge, we'd still be throwing rocks at their ships. Sarah shook her head. It's not enough. We get one shot at this. If we fail, it's over. No second chances, no fallback plans. Everything depends on surprising them completely. She turned back to the display, her fingers tracing energy patterns that only she could truly understand. There has to be something else. Something that will guarantee our success. As she studied the alien technology, Sarah's mind drifted back to that moment in her classroom when everything changed. She remembered the alien pilot's face, the way it had hesitated before firing. There had been something in its expression, not just curiosity, but something deeper. Recognition, perhaps, or even respect? The thought sparked a new idea, and Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what she had been missing. The aliens weren't just logical, they were honor-bound. Their culture valued courage and sacrifice above all else. When the pilot had seen her protecting her students, it had recognized something that transcended species barriers. A teacher protecting her children. Sarah smiled as the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. She knew exactly how to ensure their victory, and it involved the one thing the aliens would never see coming. A teacher's greatest weapon, the willingness to sacrifice everything for the ones you're sworn to protect. The counterattack was about to begin, and humanity's secret weapon was finally ready to show the galaxy what it meant to be human. The day of the counterattack dawned gray and cold. Sarah stood on the bridge of the hastily converted cargo ship that would serve as the command vessel for humanity's desperate gambit. Around her, the remnants of Earth's military forces prepared for what many believed would be their final battle. Final systems check in 30 minutes, General Harrison announced. All units report ready status. Sarah barely heard her. She was lost in the alien knowledge, reviewing their defensive protocols one last time. But something was different now. Over the past few days, as she had studied their culture and military doctrine, she had begun to understand them not just as invaders, but as individuals. Their species was called the Kethvar, and they had been explorers once. Peaceful scientists who traveled between stars to catalog new worlds and species. But something had happened to them, a great catastrophe that had forced them to become conquerors. They didn't invade worlds because they enjoyed it. They did it because they needed resources to survive their own extinction. The revelation should have made Sarah more sympathetic to their plight. Instead, it made her angrier. If they were dying, they should have asked for help, not taken what they needed by force. Humanity might have found a way to save both species. Mrs. Martinez? Dr. Wu approached her workstation. We're receiving transmission from the alien fleet. They're asking to speak with you specifically. Sarah's blood turned to ice. They know I'm here? Apparently so. The message is being broadcast on all frequencies. They're requesting a parley with the human educator who touched our network. General Harrison looked grim. It could be a trap. Of course it's a trap, Sarah replied. The question is whether we can turn it into our trap instead. She accessed the alien communication protocols in her mind, understanding instinctively how to respond. Put me through to their fleet commander. The main display flickered to life, showing the bridge of an alien command ship. The creature that appeared was different from the pilot Sarah had seen in her classroom. This one was larger, more imposing, with ceremonial markings etched into its silvery skin. But the eyes were the same, deep, dark, and ancient. I am Fleet Commander Zektar of the Kethvar Expansion Fleet, the alien said, its words translated by systems that Sarah had helped design. You are the human who breached our neural network. I'm Sarah Martinez, she replied calmly. I'm a teacher. The alien's head tilted in what might have been surprise. A teacher? Yes, we have analyzed the data from the encounter. You protected young ones of your species. I protected my students. It's what teachers do. Indeed. Commander Zektar was quiet for a moment. You have caused us considerable difficulty, Teacher Sarah Martinez. Our invasion timetable has been disrupted. Our tactical superiority has been compromised. You have cost us much. Good, Sarah said flatly. I hope it was expensive. The alien actually seemed to smile at that. You speak with honor. This is why I wish to address you personally. You have proven your species possesses courage and sacrifice. We respect these qualities. If you respect them so much, why don't you leave our world alone? Because we cannot. The alien's expression grew sorrowful. Our homeworld is dying, teacher Sarah Martinez. We have perhaps 50 of your years before our star consumes our planet. We must find new worlds, new resources, or our entire species will perish. Sarah felt a stab of sympathy, but she pushed it aside. Then, ask for help instead of taking what you need by force. We have tried peaceful contact before. Young species always respond with fear and violence. It is more efficient to simply take what we require and relocate the native population. Relocate. Sarah's voice turned dangerous. You mean wipe us out? No, Commander Zektar said, and there was genuine regret in his voice. We had planned to preserve your species on reservation worlds. You would have been cared for, protected, allowed to develop in peace. As prisoners, as limited beings. We understand this is not ideal, but extinction is worse. Sarah stared at the alien commander, and, in that moment, she made a decision that would change everything. She was about to play a card that the aliens would never expect. I have a counter-proposal, she said. General Harrison stepped forward in alarm. Mrs. Martinez, you don't have the authority to negotiate. Yes, I do, Sarah cut her off. I'm speaking as Earth's teacher, and every human on this planet is my student. So here's my proposal, Commander Zektar. A challenge. The alien leaned forward with interest. Explain. Single combat. Your best warrior against our champion. Winner takes all. If you win, we surrender unconditionally. If we win, you leave Earth and never return. The bridge erupted in shocked voices. General Harrison grabbed Sarah's arm. Have you lost your mind? This isn't some children's story where the underdog wins through pluck and determination. But Sarah kept her eyes on the alien commander. What do you say, Zektar? Does your honor code include trial by combat? The alien was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. It does. But you misunderstand the nature of such challenges. Our warriors are genetically enhanced, cybernetically augmented. No human could possibly defeat one in single combat. Let me worry about that, Sarah said. Do you accept? Sarah, General Harrison hissed. This is suicide. We have a plan that might actually work. Sarah turned to the general, her voice calm, but absolute. Our plan has a 20% chance of success, and that's if everything goes perfectly. This way, we get to choose our odds. By fighting an unwinnable battle. By fighting a battle they think is unwinnable, Sarah corrected. Trust me. She faced the screen again. Commander Zektar, I'm waiting for your answer. The alien studied her for what felt like an eternity. You intrigue me, teacher Sarah Martinez. Very well. I accept your challenge. But I choose the warrior who will face your champion. Agreed. Who do you choose? Myself. The connection ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Finally, General Harrison found her voice. Sarah, what have you done? I've given us a real chance, Sarah replied. Now I need to get ready. Over the next few hours, as the two fleets maneuvered into position around the designated combat zone, Sarah prepared for the fight of her life. She wasn't planning to face the alien commander hand-to-hand. That would indeed be suicide. Instead, she was going to use the one weapon that the aliens couldn't counter. Their own technology. The alien knowledge in her mind included detailed specifications for their personal combat systems. She knew how their weapons worked, how their armor functioned, how their enhanced reflexes operated. More importantly, she knew their weaknesses. Dr. Wu worked frantically to construct the equipment Sarah had requested. This is insane, he muttered as he calibrated the energy projectors. You're basically trying to hack an alien warrior in real time. That's exactly what I'm doing, Sarah confirmed. Their combat systems are incredibly sophisticated, but they're also networked. If I can create the right kind of interference pattern, you'll overload their cybernetics and level the playing field, Dr. Wu finished. It's brilliant. It's also completely untested. Everything we're doing is untested, Sarah pointed out. The difference is, this time I'm the only one who gets hurt if it doesn't work. As the time for combat approached, Sarah found herself thinking about her students. 28 third graders who had trusted her to keep them safe. She had done that, but now she needed to do more. She needed to keep all of humanity safe. The combat arena was a cleared space between the two fleets, monitored by sensors from both sides. Sarah stood in the center, wearing improvised armor cobbled together from alien technology and human engineering. In her hands was a weapon that looked like a cross between a rifle and a tuning fork. Commander Zektar materialized in the arena through their teleportation technology. He was magnificent, 3 meters tall, covered in biometallic armor that seemed to flow like liquid mercury. His weapon was a staff that crackled with deadly energy. "You are brave, Teacher Sarah Martinez," the commander said, his voice carrying clearly across the space between them. "But bravery alone will not save you." "We'll see about that," Sarah replied. She raised her weapon and activated the systems Dr. Wu had built. Energy coursed through the device, creating a harmonic resonance that only she could hear. The battle began. Commander Zektar moved with inhuman speed, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to cover the distance between them in seconds. His energy staff swept towards Sarah's head in an arc that would have decapitated a normal human. But Sarah was no longer normal. The alien knowledge in her mind allowed her to predict his movements, and the harmonic resonance from her weapon was already interfering with his cybernetic systems. She ducked under his strike and fired. The beam from her weapon struck the commander's armor and seemed to do nothing. But Sarah wasn't trying to damage him. She was trying to hack him. The energy pulse contained a very specific frequency pattern, one that would resonate with the quantum processors in the commander's cybernetic implants. For a split second, his enhanced system stuttered. It was enough. Sarah rolled away from his next attack and fired again, this time targeting the neural interface ports she knew were hidden behind his helmet. The commander stumbled, his perfect balance disrupted by conflicting signals from his artificial and biological nervous systems. "Impossible," he growled, raising his weapon for a killing strike. But Sarah was already moving, her teacher's instincts guiding her as surely as any military training. She had spent 8 years dealing with chaos, learning to predict the unpredictable behavior of children. Compared to managing a classroom full of third graders, fighting one confused alien warrior was almost easy. She fired a third time, and this time the harmonic resonance found its mark. The commander's cybernetics crashed completely, leaving him with only his natural abilities. Abilities that, while impressive, were no match for a human teacher who had absolutely nothing left to lose. The fight that followed was brutal, but brief. Without his technological advantages, Commander Zektar was strong and fast, but he was also confused and disoriented. Sarah used every dirty trick she could think of, fighting not with honor, but with pure desperation. When it was over, the alien commander lay on the ground, defeated but alive. Sarah stood over him, breathing hard, her improvised armor cracked and sparking. "Impossible," the commander repeated, staring up at her in amazement. "No species has ever defeated a Kethvar warrior in single combat." "You've never fought a teacher before," Sarah replied. She offered him her hand. "Now get up. We need to talk." Commander Zektar stared at Sarah's outstretched hand for a long moment before accepting it. As she helped him to his feet, the defeated alien's expression was one of profound confusion. "I do not understand," he said. "By our agreement, we must now withdraw from your world. But this makes no sense strategically. You are one individual among billions. Your victory changes nothing about our relative capabilities." Sarah looked him directly in his dark eyes. "That's where you're wrong. It changes everything." Around them, both fleets held their positions, waiting to see what would happen next. The tension was so thick it felt like the space between the ships might crack under the pressure. "Explain," the commander requested. "You came here thinking you understood humans," Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly across the combat arena. "You analyzed our history, our military tactics, our social structures. You thought you knew what we were capable of. But you missed the most important thing about us, which is, we're not just individuals. We're not just a species. We're teachers and students, parents and children, protectors and protected. When you threaten one of us, you threaten all of us. And we don't fight as separate beings. We fight as one massive, chaotic, impossible-to-predict family." Commander Zektar tilted his head. "You speak in metaphors. This does not change the mathematical realities of war." Sarah smiled. And it was the same smile she'd worn when particularly difficult students finally grasped a concept she'd been trying to teach them. Does it? Let me show you something. She activated her communication device. General Harrison, please transmit the data package we prepared. On screens aboard both fleets, a holographic display appeared. It showed the positions of ships, weapons, and personnel throughout the solar system. But this wasn't Earth's military. It was something else entirely. This is our real defense force, Sarah explained. Every civilian transport we could get our hands on, loaded with our randomized weapons. Garbage scows with missile launchers. School buses equipped with energy projectors. Ice cream trucks carrying antimatter charges. Commander Zektar's eyes widened as he studied the display. These are not military vessels. No, they're not. They're driven by teachers and mechanics, doctors and shop clerks, parents and teenagers. People who have absolutely no military training and no idea what they're supposed to do tactically. The alien commander's tactical implants began working frantically, trying to analyze the strategic implications of what he was seeing. But the computers couldn't process it. The formations made no sense. The weapon distributions followed no logical pattern. The tactical positioning was completely random. This is chaos, he said finally. Exactly, Sarah agreed. Pure, beautiful, human chaos. Your computers can't predict what we'll do because we don't know what we're going to do. Every ship out there is going to react differently when the fighting starts. Some will run away. Some will charge directly at your biggest ships. Some will hide behind asteroids and take potshots. Some will probably fly in circles just to confuse everyone. But this is not how warfare is conducted. There must be command structure, tactical coordination, strategic objectives. Says who? Sarah interrupted. Your species? You've spent so long perfecting the art of war that you've forgotten that war itself is just organized chaos. And humans? We're really, really good at chaos. Commander Zektar was silent for a long moment, processing this information. Finally, he spoke. Even so, our technology is superior. Our weapons more powerful. Our ships more advanced. Are they? Sarah asked. Let me tell you about human weapons technology. Yesterday, a 12-year-old girl figured out how to reverse engineer your shield generators using parts from a broken microwave and some birthday cake frosting. This morning, a retired plumber created a new type of ammunition by filling artillery shells with glitter, rubber cement, and crushed limestone. It somehow interferes with your quantum targeting systems. The alien commander looked skeptical. This is impossible. Is it? You're a species that thinks logically, builds systematically, and advances technologically in careful, measured steps. We're a species that once figured out how to fly by watching birds, invented the computer while trying to break secret codes, and discovered penicillin completely by accident. Sarah gestured toward the display showing Earth's improvised fleet. Every single one of those ships contains weapons and defenses that your computers have never seen before. Not because they're advanced, but because they're random. We're fighting you with modified farm equipment and kitchen appliances. Our battle plan was designed by a 9-year-old who thought it would be cool if the spaceships attacked, like angry bees. Commander Zektar's tactical systems were producing error messages faster than he could process them. Nothing in the Kethvar military database had prepared him for an enemy that used chaos as a weapon. But, surely, he said desperately, you must have some conventional military forces? Some logical strategic planning. Oh, we do, Sarah confirmed. General Harrison has been coordinating our actual military assets according to proper tactical doctrine. They're hidden throughout the asteroid belt, ready to strike at your command ships with precise, calculated attacks. The commander's eyes lit up. Then, we can predict, except, Sarah continued, the timing of their attack is being determined by my former student Emma Chun. She's rolling dice to decide when each unit attacks. 6-sided dice that she painted herself. Commander Zektar sat down heavily on the floor of the combat arena. His entire worldview was crumbling. This cannot be. How did your species ever develop space travel if you operate in such chaos? Sarah sat down across from him, her voice becoming gentler. The same way your species probably did, before you became so rigid. Through curiosity, experimentation, and a willingness to try things that might not work. The difference is, we never lost that willingness to fail spectacularly. She pointed toward Earth, hanging blue and beautiful in the display. Every major human achievement happened because someone tried something impossible. We reached the moon by strapping ourselves to controlled explosions. We cured diseases by deliberately infecting ourselves with weaker versions. We learned to fly by jumping off cliffs with homemade wings until we found something that worked. And this, chaos, this is why you believe you can defeat us? Not just defeat you, Sarah said. Save you. The alien commander looked up sharply. Explain. Sarah accessed the alien knowledge in her mind, but now she understood it differently. Your species is dying because you became too perfect, too logical, too predictable. You've optimized yourselves so thoroughly that you've lost the ability to adapt to truly novel situations. She gestured toward his sophisticated armor and weapons. This technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly specialized. It works perfectly against enemies that behave predictably. But what happens when you encounter something genuinely random? It fails, Commander Zektar admitted reluctantly. Right? And that's why your homeworld is dying. You've become so efficient at managing your environment that you can't adapt when that environment changes in unexpected ways. You need chaos in your lives. You need unpredictability. You need humans, the commander finished, understanding dawning in his dark eyes. Partnership, Sarah corrected. Your logical thinking combined with our chaotic creativity. Your technological precision enhanced by our random innovation. Together, we could probably solve the problem of your dying star in ways that neither species could achieve alone. Commander Zektar was quiet for a long time, processing this possibility. Around them, the fleets continued their tense standoff, waiting for orders that would either begin a war or end one. You would work with us? He asked finally. After we invaded your world? After we threatened your species with extinction? Sarah thought about her students, about the terror in their faces during the attack on Jefferson Elementary. Then, she thought about what she had learned about the Kethvar, a proud, ancient species facing extinction through no fault of their own. I'm a teacher, she said simply. My job is to help everyone learn and grow, even when they make mistakes. Especially when they make mistakes. She stood and offered her hand again. The question is, are you willing to learn? Commander Zektar looked at her hand, then at the chaotic display of Earth's impossible defense fleet, then back at Sarah's steady gaze. After a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, he reached out and clasped her hand in his. I believe, he said slowly, that my species has much to learn from yours, teacher Sarah Martinez. Then, let's start with lesson 1, Sarah replied with a smile. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to stop trying to control everything and start working together instead. As the two figures stood hand in hand in the combat arena, both fleets received simultaneous transmission. The war was over before it had truly begun, ended not by superior firepower or tactical brilliance, but by a teacher's absolute refusal to give up on her students. All of them, even the ones from other worlds. 5 years after first contact, Sarah Martinez stood before the newly constructed Memorial of Heroes on Earth, reading the names etched in crystalline walls that stretched toward the stars. The memorial honored all those who had died during the initial invasion, but at its center was a special section, the Roll of Legends. Her own name was there, carved in letters that seemed to glow with their own inner light. But she wasn't alone. Hundreds of other names surrounded hers, each representing someone who had made a difference during those dark weeks of occupation and the bright years of cooperation that followed. Emma Chen's name was there, the 12-year-old who had reverse-engineered alien shield technology. Dr. Wu's name, honoring his work in developing the weapons that had made their victory possible. General Harrison, who had trusted a teacher's impossible plan when logic said she should have refused. Even Commander Zektar's name was included, recognizing his courage in choosing cooperation over conquest. Impressive, isn't it? A familiar voice said behind her. Sarah turned to see Zektar approaching, but he looked very different from the imposing warrior she had faced in combat. His biometallic armor had been replaced with simple robes that combined Kethvar and human designs. His weapons were gone, replaced by teaching materials, tablets, holographic projectors, and what looked like alien versions of children's blocks. I still can't believe they put my name up there, Sarah said. I just did what any teacher would do. That, Zektar replied with something that might have been a smile, is precisely why your name belongs there. What any human teacher would do turned out to be exactly what the galaxy needed. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching as groups of mixed human and Kethvar children ran through the memorial gardens, playing games that incorporated elements from both cultures. The sight never failed to amaze Sarah. 5 years ago, these species had been at war. Now their children were learning together. How is the stellar restoration project proceeding? Sarah asked. Zektar's expression brightened. Beyond our wildest projections. The combination of Kethvar theoretical physics and human practical ingenuity has yielded results that neither species could have achieved alone. We estimate another 3 years until we can begin the actual stellar stabilization process. Sarah nodded. The project to save the Kethvar homeworld had become the greatest cooperative effort in known galactic history. Human scientists brought their chaotic creativity to bear on problems that Kethvar logic couldn't solve, while Kethvar technology provided the precision needed to implement human innovations. And the colony ships? She asked. The first wave of integrated settlements will launch next month, Zektar reported. Mixed populations, shared technology, combined cultural elements. Both species working together to establish new worlds throughout the sector. It was remarkable how quickly things had changed once the fighting stopped. The Kethvar had withdrawn their invasion forces within days of the alliance agreement, but they hadn't gone far. Instead, they had established orbital research stations and cultural exchange centers. What followed was the most intensive period of cooperation between species in recorded history. Humans learned Kethvar science and philosophy. Kethvar learned human creativity and adaptability. Both species discovered that their combined capabilities far exceeded what either could achieve alone. Teacher Sarah, a small voice called out. Sarah looked down to see a young Kethvar child approaching her with a drawing clutched in her delicate hands. The child's name was Yelena, and she was part of the first integrated classroom on Earth, humans and aliens learning together. What do you have for me today, Yelena? Sarah asked, kneeling to the child's level. I drew you standing in front of the scary ships, the child said, holding up her artwork. When you protected everyone. The drawing was touchingly crude, but recognizable. A small figure with arms spread wide, standing between enormous dark shapes, and a group of tiny figures huddled behind her. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as she looked at it. It's beautiful, sweetheart, she said. But you know what? I wasn't just protecting humans that day. I was protecting everyone, including your people. The child's large eyes widened. Really? Really? Sometimes when we're scared or angry, we forget that everyone deserves to be safe. Everyone deserves to be protected. That's what teachers do. We protect all our students, no matter where they come from. Yelena beamed and ran off to rejoin her friends. Sarah watched her go, marveling at how naturally the human and Kethvar children played together. They didn't see aliens and humans, they just saw friends. She will grow up in a galaxy we could never have imagined, Zektar observed. That's the idea, Sarah replied. Every generation should inherit a better world than the one their parents knew. Speaking of inheritance, Zektar said, the Galactic Education Council has formally requested your input on the new integrated curriculum standards. They want to ensure that all species benefit from what they're calling the Martinez method. Sarah laughed. I hate that they named it after me. It's not a method, it's just good teaching. Start with protection, build trust, encourage chaos, and always remember that your job is to help everyone learn, not just the students who look like you. Nevertheless, 17 different worlds have requested human teachers to help establish their educational systems. The galaxy has taken notice of what happens when learning becomes truly inclusive. As if summoned by their conversation, Dr. Wu approached from the Memorial's Research Center. He looked tired but satisfied, the expression of a scientist who had just solved a particularly challenging problem. Sarah, Zektar, he greeted them. I thought you'd want to know. We just received word from the Rigel system. The atmospheric processors we designed are working perfectly. The planet should be ready for colonization within 2 years. Excellent news, Zektar said. And the Centauri project? Even better. The hybrid terraforming technology is exceeding all projections. We're creating worlds that are perfect for both human and Kethvar life. Sarah smiled as she listened to them discuss projects that would have been impossible just 5 years ago. Worlds being transformed to support multiple species. Technologies being developed through unprecedented cooperation. Problems being solved that had seemed impossible when each species worked alone. There's something else, Dr. Wu continued. We've been contacted by the Zalthek Empire. They've heard about our alliance and want to discuss a peaceful first contact. Sarah's eyebrows rose. The Zalthek were known throughout the galaxy as aggressive expansionists who had conquered dozens of worlds. If they were seeking peaceful contact, it meant word of the human Kethvar alliance was spreading. That's the fourth species this month, Zektar noted. It seems our example is inspiring others to seek cooperation rather than conquest. Good, Sarah said firmly. The galaxy has had enough war. As the day wound down, Sarah found herself walking through the memorial gardens alone. The names on the roll of legends glowed softly in the evening light, each one representing someone who had chosen courage over fear, cooperation over conflict. She stopped at her own name and read the inscription below it. Sarah Martinez, teacher, protector, bridge builder. She stood between her students and the darkness, and, in doing so, lit a beacon that guided two species toward the stars. It was flowery language, the kind of thing that made her uncomfortable. But she understood why the inscription was there. Not for her, but for the children who would read it in years to come. Both human and alien children who needed to know that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when they remembered what really mattered. Her communicator chimed softly. Teacher Martinez? The voice belonged to one of her current students, a young human named Marcus whose parents worked in the orbital research stations. What is it, Marcus? She asked. There's something wrong with Zekna's portable atmosphere processor. She's having trouble breathing, and we don't know how to fix it. Zekna was a Kethvar student in Sarah's advanced integration class. Like all her species, she needed a slightly different atmospheric mixture to survive on Earth. I'm on my way, Sarah said, immediately heading toward the school complex. As she walked, Sarah reflected on how much her job had changed. She was still a teacher, but now her classroom included students from multiple worlds. Her lesson plans had to account for different biologies, cultures, and learning styles. Her emergency procedures included protocols for atmospheric failures, gravitational disturbances, and cultural misunderstandings. It was the hardest job she'd ever had. It was also the most rewarding. When she arrived at the classroom, she found Zekna sitting quietly while her human classmates stood around her in concern. The young Kethvar was breathing shallowly, her silvery skin slightly pale. Sarah quickly examined the atmospheric processor and identified the problem, a simple calibration error that was easily fixed. Within minutes, Zekna was breathing normally again. Thank you, Teacher Martinez, the young Kethvar said in careful English. You're welcome, sweetheart, Sarah replied. But next time this happens, remember that you can ask for help immediately. That's what we're here for. As she watched her students, human and Kethvar alike, settle back into their group project, Sarah thought about the inscription on the memorial. Bridge builder. She supposed that was accurate. Every day, she helped build bridges of understanding between species that had once been enemies. But the real bridge wasn't the technology or the treaties or the cooperative projects. The real bridge was sitting right in front of her. Children from different worlds learning together, caring for each other, growing up as friends instead of enemies. Years from now, when these children were adults exploring the galaxy, they would carry with them the knowledge that differences didn't have to mean conflict, that strangers could become friends, that the best way to face the unknown wasn't with weapons, but with open minds and protective hearts. Sarah Martinez had protected her class from a blast that could have destroyed everything. But, in the end, what she had really done was protect the future, a future where no child would have to choose between their own species and the greater galactic community. Her name would remain on the roll of legends, but her true legacy was walking around the galaxy right now. Former students, both human and alien, who had learned that the best response to difference wasn't fear. It was curiosity. It was protection. It was the absolute refusal to give up on anyone, no matter how strange or scary they might seem at first. In the end, that was what good teachers did. They protected everyone, taught everyone, and never stopped believing that everyone could learn to be better, even when everyone included the entire galaxy.